I got a haircut. Sorry, it was getting hot out, so deal with it. Anyway, Finding Dory, the first in a very long line of sequels that Pixar announced not too long ago. Strap in, folks. It's going to be a long couple of years, with the only movie that actually deserved a sequel all the way at the end of the line. So before I talk about the movie, I gotta talk about the short that they had before it. It's called Piper, and it's about a little sandpiper baby, and it might be the most realistic thing that Pixar has ever put out. Every visual in it looked very authentic, every movement felt very natural. It was as realistic as it was adorable. But anyway, Finding Dory takes place 1 year after the events of Finding Nemo, where Dory is starting to get back some of her memories of her family, and she wants to go out to look for them. Of course, our main cast returns. Ellen DeGeneres is great as Dory, as always. Albert Brooks returns as Marlin. Nemo is there, of course, but unfortunately they had to get a new voice actor for him because Finding Nemo was about 15 years ago, and unfortunately, it seems nature took its course for his original voice actor. A lot of the side characters came back from the original movie, a lot of Nemo's friends from the reef. Squirt and Crush, the sea turtles, were there too. It was cool to see them again. I was hoping we'd see Bruce, because he was one of my favorite side characters from the original movie. Unfortunately, he did not make a comeback. But we do get quite a few new side characters. We get everyone's favorite lazy TV dad, Ed O'Neill, as Hank the Octopus. And the animation on him was amazing. I heard it took them years to perfect how to move an octopus in a CGI environment, and it was well worth it. Caitlin Olsen voices a whale shark named Destiny, and Ty Burrell voices a beluga whale who's her neighbor, and I loved the banter between the two of them. It was so funny. Idris Elba voices a sea lion in this movie, and I just like to point out this is the third movie this year that I've heard Idris Elba's voice in, all three of which were Disney movies, and in all three movies he voices a talking animal. Hey, Idris, I love you, man. You're one of my favorite actors right now, and I think it's great you're working for Disney and all, but be careful. They might be trying to typecast you. So the one thing I was kind of disappointed in was this movie didn't feel as big or as adventurous as the first one did, because in Finding Nemo, they had to traverse the entire ocean just to find out where he went. And in this one, they had to go from the Australian reefs, which is, I believe that's where they're from, to California. And for a good chunk of that journey, they kind of cut it out, mostly because they hitched a ride on the sea turtles again. And then they finally get to their destination, and they find out that Dory came from an aquarium, a big marine refuge place. And when we got to the aquarium, that's when things kind of didn't feel as epic as they were in the first movie. Not that it was bad or anything, but it just didn't feel as big. Also, because the fish from the ocean had to get into this aquarium, they had to rely on a lot of Deus Ex Machina. Like, in order to get from one exhibit to the next, they had to, like, hitch a ride on a bird, and then they fall into this cup of water that just happened to be there, and then they jump into this fish tank. There's a scene in this movie where Marlin and Nemo are trying to get into this one exhibit, so they had to jump out of this tank that they were in, and they had to, like, bounce on these, like, fountain spouts that were coming out, and they just happened to get all the way across the park to get to it. And the whole time I was just like, wow, these are the luckiest fish in the world. There's also this scene where Hank was trying to get Dory somewhere, so he basically stole a children's stroller, and he was like pushing it around from the underneath in the basket. He was pushing the wheels, and the whole time I'm watching this unmanned stroller go through this crowd of people, I'm just like, is nobody seeing this? Because he was in perfect view of a whole lot of people. Speaking of Deus Ex Machina, without spoiling anything from the movie, the way Dory ultimately finds out about her parents feels incredibly unlikely. I will say this movie was a lot funnier than the first one, especially in the late second act to most of the third act. Particularly the climax of the movie, and again, no spoilers, but let's just say your suspension of disbelief is gonna take a beating. The one thing that was kind of rough with this movie was learning about Dory's past, because in the first movie and some of the beginning of this movie, her memory problem was always played for laughs. It was made, you know, they did jokes with it and everything. Like at the beginning of the movie, she tried to go talk to Marlin in the sea anemone, and she gets stung by the sea anemone, and they have to remind her, you can't go in the sea anemone, and a few seconds later, she does it again, and that was funny. But then when we have flashbacks of when Dory was a child with her parents trying to help her, they establish that this is a genuine problem that this character has had her whole life, and she's been trying to get over it. And there were even scenes where they showed her parents, her mom was like crying, saying, I don't know if she's gonna survive on her own like this. And I'm like, oh God, now I feel like an asshole because I was laughing. It's not cool, man. It was really funny until they added that human element, and it's great. It's, you know, it's a very good message for this movie to have. That, you know, some people have it a lot harder, but damn, I feel awful now. But I was still very invested in this movie. I liked all the characters in it. I liked that there was no set villain of this movie. I really like especially when a kids movie does that, because it's more about the journey, the discovery, and all that, and that's all great stuff. So I would really maybe say this is about as good as the first movie. So if you definitely liked Finding Nemo, you'll definitely like this movie. And if you're going to check out Finding Dory, make sure you stay after the credits. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens after the credits. You want to talk about suspension of disbelief? Oh boy. So that's all I got for Finding Dory. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of it. My name is Rob, and have a wonderful day.